There are some names that make your skin crawl the moment you hear them. Patrick Wayne Kearney, known as the Trash Bag Killer, his story is etched into infamy not just for the brutality of his crimes, but for the chilling realization of how an ordinary man could descend into such darkness. Kearney targeted young men and hitchhikers in and around Los Angeles during the 1970s. While he confessed to 21 murders, authorities suspect the number could be much higher. In this video, we'll delve into Kearney's life, his horrifying crimes, and the ultimate justice that brought his reign of terror to an end. A word of caution: this story is not for the faint of heart. The events you're about to hear are not fictional, but a grim reality. Are you ready to confront the terrifying truth? Patrick Wayne Kearney was born on September 24, 1939, in the eastern suburbs of Los Angeles to an ordinary American family. However, this facade of normalcy masked a troubling reality. His father was a strict and authoritarian figure, ruling the household with an iron fist. Love and understanding were replaced with harsh discipline, which further isolated Patrick. A shy and introverted child, he struggled to form connections with others and found solace in solitude. But that solitude became fertile ground for the growth of dark thoughts. One of the most alarming aspects of Kearney's childhood was his inclination to harm animals. Neighbors recalled incidents where Patrick inflicted injuries on cats or dogs and seemed to derive an unsettling sense of satisfaction from these acts. In hindsight, these early behaviors were clear warning signs of the horrors to come. By his teenage years, Patrick was not only physically small, but emotionally fragile, often the target of relentless bullying. This constant humiliation fueled a deep-seated anger that would later erupt in the most horrifying ways. During high school, the ridicule he faced pushed him toward viewing violence as a means of control. Patrick began fantasizing about reversing his role as a victim and exerting dominance over others. These fantasies marked the early sparks of what would become his deadly trajectory. Little did the world know the seeds of a serial killer had already been sown. By the late 1960s, Patrick Kearney had grown into a seemingly normal adult, trying to carve out a place for himself in Los Angeles' bustling life. But beneath this exterior, his dark urges were festering, waiting to erupt. His first known murder occurred in 1965, and his victim remains unidentified to this day. The victim, a young hitchhiker, met his end when Kearney picked him up, shot him point blank, and disposed of his body. Kearney's method of selecting victims remained consistent. He preyed on young men, hitchhikers, and those who appeared vulnerable. He would lure them into his car with friendly conversation, often gaining their trust before taking them to his home, where the horror would unfold. After murdering his victims, he dismembered their bodies, placed them in trash bags, and discarded them in remote areas. By the early 1970s, the body count was rising at an alarming rate. One of his victims, 17-year-old John Lamai, had visited Kearney's home for what he thought was a casual meeting. Instead, it became his last. Kearney strangled Lamai, dismembered his body, and dumped the remains in the desert. Days later, Lamai's mutilated body was discovered, shocking investigators and the community. Kearney's method was chillingly methodical. He eliminated evidence, dismembered bodies with precision, and continued his life as if nothing had happened. Each murder seemed to embolden him. turning him into a cold and calculated killer. For years, Patrick Kearney eluded justice, but in 1977, his crimes finally caught up with him. The disappearance of John Lamai led authorities to Kearney's home. Friends of Lamai reported that he had last been seen visiting Kearney, which prompted a police investigation. When detectives searched Kearney's residence, they found damning evidence linking him to the murders. During interrogation, Kearney exhibited chilling composure, confessing to 21 murders in graphic detail. He even guided investigators to the locations of his victims. His lack of remorse was perhaps the most disturbing aspect of his confession. When asked why he killed, his response was as cold as it was unsettling. It was just a compulsion. In 1978, Patrick Wayne Kearney was convicted of 21 murders and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. To this day, his crimes remain a haunting chapter in American history. Kearney's story is a sobering reminder of how darkness can lurk behind the most unassuming of facades. It's not just the story of a serial killer, but also a testament to the resilience of law enforcement and the pursuit of justice, no matter how long it takes.